One of the takeaways that I have from that Cam Newton, Dr. Bryant segment, men have a hard time, and this is what I'm realizing, men with the mics on this podcast who have an issue with women have a hard time with the high value, low function conversation. My guy, Cam, I mean, right over the dreads, my guy. They have a hard time thinking that women will date low value men versus high value men because they feel like the money qualifies them to buy and get everything they want, even a woman. So for them, it's a hard concept to connect the dots and believing, just like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant said, no, women will date low value men, high functioning, low value men. Because one, women are outpacing men in value because we have higher education, we're getting paid more. That's all the value means, like financial value.
Okay. Uh, I think she said that last comment backwards, but I think she corrected herself. Never mind that. So that's been debunked plenty of times. And I'm gonna go ahead and go in. I'm debunking that shit. Women aren't making more than men in today's day and age. The highest paying jobs, men still occupy those jobs 80 to 90%. A lot more safer, you would say. Like, even though we're seeing a greater influx of women getting to become cops or, nah, actually, I have yet to see a firewoman yet. No, you know what? I seen one, but seeing fire women, actually seeing women in the construction field, women in, going underwater and doing welding in general, the people that make the roads, the people that make the exact car that you're driving, or make the house that you live in, or make the apartment that you live in. Most of those are men, and most of those jobs there are typically your higher paying jobs. Women are not outpacing men. Even though women are getting a higher education, that doesn't necessarily mean you're higher of value. Your value becomes, from the actual income or occupation that you partake in. There's a lot of people with big degrees, big name degrees, masters, doctorates, but don't have a job or working at McDonald's. That's been debunked plenty of times. And there's numbers that'll show you that. I'll put them up here for you guys.
Do need our money? No, because we all know that women, black women in particular, make less than black men. So a black man's money is necessary to provide for a household as well. So that shouldn't make any difference to what I'm saying.
Women are not outpacing men when it comes to finances.
But low functioning decisions. Wanting your person to take your toxicity because you're high value, low functioning. Not happening, buddy. And
nothing upsets me more than y'all making excuses.
And another side about it is like you can't really fault what she's saying, but not every woman does that. Some women, a lot of women are going after the high value dude just because he's high value and he may be quote unquote low function. I hate all this word salad. Dr. Brian then calls the whole world salad that everybody's going to be using for the next couple of months. So it's cool, but I can't deny they're like, I've said it on this channel. Cam gotta definitely fix that situation just to be a better fit for the children and stuff like that. Just more structure. That's my belief. That's my saying. I think it'd be great for him to do that just so other people looking up to him to have something to see and be an example of that, just because I may be in a broken situation doesn't mean that I always have to be broken. I can turn that situation around and turn it into a great thing, which he's already, like I said, also he's already in a step in the right directions where he have all the children with him and everything like that. But settling down with a woman to actually be the soulmate, be that twin for you, to be there, help you, uplift you, that know that woman's always going to be your backbone. I believe Cam should definitely take that route. So
excuses for people's poor behavior when it comes to children, as long as they got money. As soon as I hear somebody use money as an excuse as to why somebody can be out here being negligent when it comes to the men that they choosing to procreate with, whether it be men going out here and creating broken homes. Whenever your default answer to said bad behavior is, well, they got the money, they can support them, the kid ain't gonna be hurting for nothing. I know one thing about you, you're broke mentally. Your brain, you're broke mentally to believe that. When I hear y'all talk like that, I have to assume you didn't grow up in a two-parent household and you grew up deprived, and you've convinced yourself that if you had just got those toys that you wanted, if you had just grew up in a bigger house, if your parents had just been able to buy you those new shoes and clothes, you just would have ended up turning.
When people just kind of just throw shame, insults, and guilt, like the good old Kevin Samuels used to say, to make people feel bad, you can just really tell them the situation that's wrong. Ain't no need for all the name calling, because there's people with two-parent households that think that's okay, and you have a person that you're talking about who really think that's a cool thing to do. So it really doesn't really have anything to do with having two parents in a household, but it has something to do with how you're raised, and then actually taking forth, how your parents raised you. Now, I don't know how strict Cam Newton's dad was. He maybe was strict for him in the sports and his accolades and making sure he was doing good in school like that, but there was neglect in certain areas where Cam Newton got to explore for himself. And I've seen that firsthand with a lot of friends growing up, and a lot of acquaintances that I have now, right? Like, they'll grow up with two parents households, and they're strict about a lot of things. They're strict about their education. They're strict about the job that they partake in, but they're never strict about their relationships. They're never really strict about who their friends that they're hanging around with. They're never strict about what they're watching. They're never really strict about sitting them down and reading the Bible to them. They're never really strict about when they come to that age, when they're seeing girls or they're seeing guys, and there's the relationship dynamics are coming into play, and they're someday trying to go get married and someday trying to have kids. Like, they're never really taught in those aspects, like, hey, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, right? And so they go out and they go on their own route, and they think what's right to them is whatever's right for them. And I may be wrong, but I would assume that that's probably what Cam Newton route was, so focused on. His father was so focused on football, him doing right in school, treating people with respect. There was parts he would neglect it. Maybe sometimes that happens because, you're kind of assuming that your child would take the example of you having a married dynamic, that they'll follow suit. No, you got to sit your child down and actually walk them through the process of why it's like this, why that you should get married, why you shouldn't sleep around without getting married, having kids out of wedlock, why those things are very important. It has to be a big emphasis, and I think people neglect that.
So much better. And now you have really truly convinced yourself that anybody who does have enough money to be able to provide their children that type of lifestyle, they're going to be fine just as long as the money and material things are there. Doesn't matter whether or not there's an active father. Doesn't matter whether or not the man ain't hitting on nothing that you had a child by. Those things actually are important. As somebody who grew up in a household with both my mama and my daddy, and I was a spoiled brat, so I got all sides of it, I got to see that the most important thing wasn't the material stuff that they was buying me. Although I appreciate how hard they worked to do that stuff for me, it wasn't what impressed me the most. What impressed me the most was their presence. Knowing that I had both of my parents in the household with me and them loving on me the way they did. Knowing that neither one of my parents had to split their time with me. I didn't have to go to nobody else's house on no certain days. I didn't have to have my daddy outside of the household taking care of somebody else's kids better than he taking care of me and my brothers. I didn't have to worry about none of that. I could confide in my mama. My mama spoke life into me. She loved on me. My daddy, I could always count on him as a protector. No matter what somebody did or bothered me, I always knew, you bothered me too much, I'm going to get my daddy, because I knew he had my back and he would protect me from the time I was a child to now still a grown woman. When we talk about...
Yeah, I will say that's the importance of having a two-parent household. Not only just having that two-parent household, but having them instill what love is, what are rules and regulations to live out in life. Like those are great aspects to have in your life. And on that dynamic, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right about that. You had Boosie Badass. Boosie Badass still makes hundreds and thousands of dollars from shows, still making money doing this thing. Got a big ass mansion out there in Atlanta. But he'll tell you. He admitted on a Vlad TV interview. One of the things that he really hates is the fact that he don't have his kids with him. He don't have custody of all his kids.
I only want better for them, but I know how to get the bag. But we gotta think about their happiness too at the same time, and it's even harder when you got separate households and mama saying one thing, daddy saying another thing. So we just gotta try to co-parent.
Well, I remember you made a video where you said you felt like a failure because all your kids don't live with you.
Right.
Still feel that way?
A lot of days I do.
Yeah.
A lot of days I do.
And we see the hell that he goes through going back and forth with the baby mama. Sometimes the kids can't come see him because they mad at him. Had some kids couldn't show up for Christmas with him. So, there's dynamics like that where it doesn't really get to play out as good as Cam got it. Cam got it really worked out for him. It's a blessing. He got all the kids in custody with him, and he said that all of them co-parent very well from what he said. That's a blessing. You're not going to get that. He barely missed the bullet. Barely missed it.
About broken homes, as Dr. Cheyenne did with Cam Newton. Don't forget the sibling rivalry that's created too with broken homes. It's more than just the broken homes that's being created when men have kids, 5 different places. Because let's be true about this. The home that the man lives in and decides to stay and dwell, we all know that home gets the most. We love to hear, baby moms and listen, I understand all that. Been there. Wherever the man is stationed, that house is always going to have the most. That child is always going to have the most because he lives there. That's where he dwells. So we don't talk about siblings not liking each other. Siblings going to school with each other. And they got this attitude. That ain't my sister. That ain't my brother. Sisters and brothers feel like this because the daddy living with one. The mama's mad, which they have every right to be if they are mad because you created a broken home. And it's like kids don't even speak to each other, walk by each other. That ain't my sister, that ain't my brother because of this broken home madness.
And she's definitely right on that aspect too. Like you do get that sibling rivalry. I've seen it. I haven't dealt with it personally, even though I was kind of in a situation like that. But I never dealt with that personally. But I've seen that. I've seen where that ain't really my sister, even though they're related. People go on social media and dog they siblings out. I'm like, damn, that's your half sister. So, you don't really fuck with them like that. I don't even talk to her. It's like, damn. But that happens, and those children that don't really get the presence of the father or the presence of the mother as much, there's that jealousy ring that goes on, and they dwindle it to the other siblings. They dwindle it to the other siblings, like, oh, you so spoiled, you get all this, you get all that. You don't know what it's like to be hard. Like you don't fit in with us. Like, talk down to them and make them feel bad about the situation that they were born into. You know what I'm saying? But that's what that stuff comes with, guys. Comes with having kids out of wedlock, getting somebody else pregnant. Like that's what that shit come with.
It's better to marry than to burn. Not to say that people that are married don't divorce and things come out of it. But the majority of the time when you marry for longevity. You marry to have all your kids with one man or one woman. You don't marry with the intent, if you're not being rushed into it, to be divorced. That's not the intent in which you marry. So when you have siblings in 5 different houses, it's like they...
I need you to listen to me. Something really bad.
I am a big fan, but let me tell you, that interview with Dr. Bryant was no surprise to me at all, and I'm going to tell you why. So if you didn't know the backstory with Cam Newton and his first baby mama, his baby mama was a stripper in Charlotte. Cam had just been drafted to the Charlotte Panthers. I believe he is younger than her, and she was a single mom to one daughter. So actually, when he first got with her, because he was so fine back then, I'm not a fan of the dreads, but he was so fine back then.
The girl said Charlotte Panthers, Carolina Panthers, but okay, you got it, man.
I kind of appreciated him getting a single mom out the strip club, because I felt like, you know, he don't care what people think. He's doing his own thing. Love is love. Let's proceed. Now, instead of him pulling her from the strip club, which he knew that was her only means of income, she was
Highly unrecommended. Don't save the girl out of the strip club, fellas. Don't do it. Do not do it. Do not do it.
an exotic dancer. That was her only means of income. She's a single mom. Instead of you pulling her from the strip club and girlfriending her or wifey her up and putting her through school, letting her become a lawyer, letting her become a doctor, pursue her education, instead y'all kept having baby after baby after baby after baby. So at 1, 2, 3, 4, you know you're going to have to financially support this lady for the rest of her life because she didn't go back to school and get advanced education. So my thing is, he is so proud of claiming that it's not a broken home, but it is a broken home, because at the end of the day, I don't know if she's moved to Atlanta, but last time I checked, she was in Charlotte with the kids and he was in Atlanta. He opened up a restaurant in Atlanta, got the side chick pregnant while he was still in a relationship with her. The side chick lived upstairs from his Goodfellas restaurant. Still does, if I'm not mistaken. Last time I heard, that's what Atlanta Street says. She still does live upstairs from Goodfellas restaurant for easy access. So that's the second broken home. You wasn't even with her for long. And then here pops up a new girlfriend, Jazzy, and you have a new baby with her. Every relationship does not equate to a baby. You know what that tells me? It screams broken. Now, are other people broken? Are we all broken? Yes, we are. But for you to leave a lady with 4 additional kids besides the one she already had as a single mom and not wife her is not gentleman qualities. That's like some hood rat shit. Y'all keep.
Well, first of all, I ain't saying it's right, but I'll tell you why he didn't want a wife. Now Cam might be doing some crazy shit, but he ain't dumb now. He ain't dumb. And it's not to disrespect at all, but I'm just saying it how it is. Ain't no nigga trying to marry no stripper. What the hell would he do that for? Now, I get it. In Cam's instance, right? Cam's worked hard all his life to get to where he's at today. Go to get drafted #1 pick in the NFL, go to the Carolina Panthers, beat out rookie records, show up for a Super Bowl with nobody, absolutely nobody. Hundreds of millions of dollars to his name can all be taken away just like that. Just like that, from marrying the wrong person. I believe in that situation, his flesh got the better of him. Because what are you having children with a stripper for? Let's just be honest. What are you having babies with a stripper for? That's not to say that, oh, I can't marry a person that used to strip or anything like that and she's changed her ways. That wasn't the case. This man met her in the club and tried to save her out of the club. It doesn't really work well that way. And, you know, I don't know who she is. I don't know what her personality is. I don't know her character traits, whether she's going to try to steal money from Cam or not. But I'm thinking Cam is just being He knows that. He's cautious of that. He can easily get played in this situation. So why get married? For what? For what? Because soon as shit go downhill, you're gonna leave up anyway. You're gonna end up getting up and leaving anyway. Cam probably already knew he was gonna step out and cheat and deal with other women. And she probably wasn't gonna stay for that shit and take half of what he got. That's just bringing another perspective to it. Not saying it's right, but that's just bringing another perspective to it. But end of the day, as men, we have to do better, and we have to court the women that we're choosing up with, that we're shacking up with, and making sure we're not having children out of wedlock. That's what we got to do. That's the big thing.
The intention of his words, and he has to keep saying intention because he knows he's not articulating what he means, and she's responding to what he's articulating, but he doesn't mean that. So now he's getting frustrated. Being able to communicate is a skill. Just because you can open your mouth and words can come out, that doesn't mean that you have the skill of being able to communicate effectively. I've watched other interviews with Cam Newton and other people. He's had Brittany Renner, he's had a bunch of different people. So I've seen him speak to people who don't challenge his level of intellect because they aren't there yet, and how he's able to feed them word salad and they eat that up. And because they don't understand something, he can actually speak and mean something other than what he's saying. But because they don't understand what he's saying, let alone his intention behind it, they just sit there and they go, yep, and they receive it. He's finally speaking to a woman who can understand what he's saying and what he's talking about. So she's responding to that. I will give the grace of saying that she responds in a lot of detail. I am someone who also likes to have detail, so I can understand when you have to scale back the detail to kind of check in and allow that person to catch up with what you're saying before you keep giving it to them. Otherwise, they're not going to get it. So I give him the grace on that of he's flustered, but instead of being honest and saying, okay, I don't get it, or you've lost me here, he starts to be condescending. This conversation is a perfect example of people who have capped themselves at a level of intellect where they believe that they are more emotionally developed than they actually are, because they only bring people into their world who put them on a pedestal. So people who essentially think that they're beneath them. So they are constantly the smartest person in the room. They're constantly the person who's able to have some sort of dominance over everybody else, which is why he sat there in front of her face and said to her that he can bring anybody into his world and transform them into who he wants them to be. And then when you take what he said and you look at, I think it's his last child's mother, Jazzy, she used to make her videos online speaking about, the values that you should have and essentially getting married before you have a baby with someone. Then she gets into a relationship with him and those go out of the window, and now she's another mother to his child, but not his wife. You understand why men like him, who think like him, think that they can turn a woman into what they want them to, because women are making the choice for whatever reason, whether it's his money, his notoriety, his fame. She even came out and said something when people were questioning, like, hey sis, how did you let yourself become another mother to one of his children? And she was like, well, if a man of this caliber put it on you, you would do it too. And it's like, that's a choice you made because you felt like he was on this pedestal. He was of a caliber that was enough for you to abandon those morals and beliefs that you had before. But if you really stood by those morals and beliefs that you had before, nothing that he said would allow you to change that unless his actions showed you're my wife.
If Cam Newton,
Miss Morales, she really gave insight. I say that was probably the best one. She gave a lot of insight there. So started off, let me just put this out there. Dr. Brian does give a lot of word salad. If you watch that whole interview, like there was a question where Cam Newton asked her, so why you don't have a Wikipedia page? And she went into a whole diatribe of why she didn't have a Wikipedia page. But then he asked, where you from? She went into a whole diatribe about who her parents was, the hardships that they went through, and all that good stuff. And then said where she was from. And I was like, damn. He just asked where you from. And I understand, like, you want to give, a little game after you tell somebody where you're from. But it's like when you go to an interview and they just want to ask you, tell me about yourself. And people go in this whole diatribe of where they from, how many jobs they went through, and with all the skills they develop and stuff like that, when they ask you that question, they just want to ask you, applicable skill sets do you have for the job? You know, so just stay concise really in these interviews when you're having them. And then let's also get on the point of, she said that the woman that Cam Newton is with now, Jazzy is her name. She said she had values of marry before you carry, but that all changed when the Cam Newton came around. So it shows you that her values really didn't have any foundation to it, because she would have kept those values. Instead, she allowed Cam Newton to change her ways in order to fit his mold and his lifestyle. And little does she know, she's just a breakup away from just being another single mother. That's it. That's all it takes. Just a breakup away. You're one breakup away. And men and women have to do better on choosing their mates, marrying before they carry, because we're going to continue to see situations like this. We're seeing a lot of situations like this in the Black household. Let's be the change of that. Marry before you carry, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll also get into Dr. Bryant's history, because, you know, I think a lot of people are missing. There's a lot of meat in that interview that you can really take notes from. And a lot of people are on Cam for being condescending and misleading, but there's a little bit of skepticism about Dr. Bryant if you really pay attention, if you really do your research, and we'll actually be getting into those things next, right? So appreciate y'all watching the video. Much love. Peace.